Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 3-0 Take, where we talk all things Major League Baseball. Here's Kyle Corwin and Nate Reyes. It all starts right now.
Oh, welcome back to the 3-0 Take, presented by Chinook Seedery. This is episode 539. I'll be your host, Kyle Corwin. I'm here with my co-host, Nate Reyes. Nate.
Casey, how are we? You know what I like? I like seeing that people clearly have their notifications on.
I love it.
Clearly.
They're hopping in right away.
It's really revealing on days that it's like, hey, we're a little off schedule. Hey, we're a little bit different time, different day. And they're still here. Bang. Just like that. They have the noties on. That's important. That means a lot. That's all. That's all I got.
Much appreciated to those of you that join us on the stream. We love talking ball, and I'm here to tell you that we got some good things we're talking about today. Let's talk some ball. Before we do that, though, well, no, I already know the answer to this question. You didn't get a chance to get any dogs or burgers today, did you? Celebrate the day that is Memorial Day, honor our fallen.
I had
honestly, let's just go ahead and acknowledge that right off the top here, because that's more important than anything we're going to talk about. You know, we don't say Happy Memorial Day, but it is a weekend worth celebrating as we pay our respects and the honor to those who have fallen, have paid the ultimate sacrifice to protect our freedom. Greatly appreciated. To those men and women and their families, because as we know, like we know people who have served, and it takes a toll on the family as well. So you know, this is a weekend not about burgers and dogs, although that is an opportunity for people to gather and reflect on these things. That is an element of this, but an important weekend to honor and remember and reflect. So we thank those of you who have served or are part of a family or have friends or loved ones that have served. So we thank you for that.
Big time, man. And what better way to celebrate our freedom than, you know, hanging out with fam, grilling, laughing, telling stories, watching ball, yucking it up. That's what freedom's all about, baby.
Baseball and freedom, they just go hand in hand. I tell you what.
It's very true.
I tell you a guy who's worth talking about right now. And look, it's you know, it's not even our midweek episode, but I tell you what. Tarik Skubal.
Someone just hit a tree.
I know. I got to be careful with that, man. I use that a little too liberally, where I'm just, I'm going to get some people in trouble. I apologize. I'm messing something up, messing somebody up. I got to keep an eye out for that. But no, little premature credit cannon for Tarik Skubal. We'll just go ahead and hit him with that.
Sure.
Dude, without a doubt, the best pitcher in baseball. This guy, like, every time he goes out, it's like, what is he going to do differently this time out to demonstrate that he's still the best pitcher in baseball, to eliminate any question of anybody else possibly taking that title from him this season? And he goes out and does this. I mean, this is hands down one of the better games you're ever going to see pitched.
Yeah.
And I don't like to throw that around loosely, but I mean, a CG, 2 hits, no runs, no walks, 13 Ks. And that, as crazy as it sounds,
different.
That's not even the most impressive, to me at least. You may disagree. That's not even the most impressive part of the whole feat. 94 pitches, which as we all know, is a Maddox under 100 pitches.
That's the rule.
94 pitches, 72 strikes.
Yeah.
72 strikes. Let me do the quick math on that. What does that come out to? What is that strike percentage?
I'm going to say 82%.
All right. It's been a minute since I did math. I'm going to go
divide those numbers.
72. I got it. 72 divided by 94. That comes out to a strike percentage of 77%.
Close enough.
That's gross. 26 swings and misses. His first, and honestly, the biggest of shout outs to Tarik Skubal, the first CG of his career. All of this according to
Which is
Jeffrey
also
Passan.
kind of surprising about that update, you know?
That's what I'm saying. You would assume this dude would have at least half a dozen CGs under his belt.
I know.
But he's like, you know what? I don't actually. I have 0 CGs. Let me just go out and do it in arguably the most dominant fashion that it could be done.
Well, I wanted to kind of look up if there was anything different necessarily. So my question for you is, are you wearing your nerd hat today?
I'm wearing my nerd ears. I'm open to whatever it
Okay.
is that you have for me.
Okay. I'm wearing my nerd
I'm
hat. So
I'm listening.
when I like to nerd out, I just take a little jaunt, just a little stroll over to Baseball Savant.
Are we
That's where
we're just making up words now? Is that a thing?
jaunt.
Jaunt. I don't
I'm gonna go
No.
JAUNT. Jaunt.
That's a word. Jaunt, a short excursion or journey for pleasure. How about that?
There we are.
That's
There we
a poll
are.
right there. I
A nerd jaunt.
don't know if I've ever used that before, but let's roll with it.
You're welcome. Well, I was trying to figure out, like, just year by year, if there's anything that's doing differently, right? Because, like, he really came onto the scene in 2023. Cy Young last year. So, like, is there anything ticking up? Is there anything changing? Like, what? How is he just getting better? Not a ton of change. Couple things that have tweaked is that the fastball has, like, really kind of dropped off a lot more, and the changeup has gone up, and the sinker usage has gone up. So it's stuff with movement. And then it was like, okay, well, have those pitches themselves changed at all? The spin rate has jumped up on the changeup, and so has the speed a little bit. Last year, that changeup was sitting at about 86. This year, it's sitting at about 88. So he's getting a little more movement. He's getting a little more velocity on it, and I think it's playing, dude. And that's how its number one pitch. His number one usage of pitches is his changeup, and the fact that four seam is going down and the sinker usage is going up. So it's like those three are just dangerous, bro. And it's not like he's doing this where he's got like 92, 93 in the tank. No, he's averaging 97. So it's unfair. It's gross.
What's unfair is the last pitch of this Maddox, 102.6.
Yeah.
How do you get? I mean, I guess if there's a guy in the league that can do it, apparently it's Skubal. But like, how do you keep that in the tank when
It's gross.
you
man.
really? You can only assume, as mere mortals that we are, you can only assume that you kind of empty the tank to reach the milestone of a CG. But he's like, no, pump the brakes. Still got 103 left to go.
It's nuts, man.
The biggest takeaway, and I put out a post about it, which I'm very encouraged, I'll say, by the feedback I was getting on it. But I put out a tweet earlier today. and I posted it to the IG and Facebook, and folks were sharing their thoughts. But I said, Major League Baseball doesn't care about starting pitchers like it once did. But I'm here to tell you, a dog who can go 7 to 9 innings every fifth day and make opposing batters look like little leaguers will never not be cool. And I stand by that. And if there are a handful of guys in baseball that I still feel really encapsulate that that description, really fit that description. But I would have to say, if not leading the pack, is at the very near top of that list in Tarik Skubal. I mean, this guy does not care about, keeping some in the tank, holding out for the next start, keeping an eye on a pitch limit. He wants to go out there and shove it down your throat. And how we ever got away from this being the norm, I will never understand. Like why we decided, how we as a sport looked at that and was like, I mean, that's great and all.
Not useful.
But let's switch gears here to employing 6 to 9 high leverage guys that'll throw 12 pitches every third day. Let's do that.
I don't get it.
Don't understand. Like sometimes you just gotta go with what feels good in your gut, what feels good in your heart. And if you look at Tarik Skubal, that just feels right. Not this opener nonsense. Not this, we've got a closer, but we're going to use him in the 7th because it's the high leverage situation. That doesn't feel right. Give me the red-blooded American dog that's going to give you 8+. Throwing 130 pitches every fifth day. Give me that. I want that again. And
you're gassed up. I love it.
I'm telling you what, man. And you know what's really got me gassed on this whole starting pitcher thing? I dusted off the Xbox this weekend.
Sure.
And I popped in MVP 2005. Actually, I didn't even need to pop it in. That's the only. It stays in there.
I was going to say that. Yeah.
It's the only game that I play anymore.
You just turned it on.
Turned it on, and I was like, earlier over the weekend, I played classic Red Sox Yankees. I was like, let me just get this out of my system. I had Wakefield on the bump. He threw like a 1-run CG. Which, little trivia for you, Tim Wakefield never threw a CG. By the way, in his many years. On the bump, but it was, I believe it was it last night, the night before? I was like, let's go off the beaten path here a little bit. Let's mix it up. I was like, let's look around what other teams I could use. I completely forgot that in that MVP 05 game that you could play with what they call the Legends team, and then I think it's like the Heroes team. Mm-hmm. And so they just divvied it up. Like half of the guy, like I think it's the Legends. It's like Ruth, Gehrig, guys like that. And then on the Heroes, it's like, I think it's like Bob Gibson, Willie McCovey, like guys like that.
Yeah.
I think some of the more recent guys, Brooks Robinson, I think was on team. But I'm just looking at that starting staff, and it was like Nolan Ryan, Bob Gibson, Bob Feller. And I'm like,
here throwing shut pieces to
why
CPU.
Why did we get away from this?
I don't know, man. This is, I mean, well, if you want to pull at this thread, we can. It's analytics have really, I don't want to say ruined, because there is some useful information there.
No doubt.
But I don't think we were really fully prepared or aware for what it was going to do to not just our sport, but sports in general. Brother, the NBA has been more affected by analytics than baseball.
Has it really?
Yeah, dude. That's why they only chuck up threes now. That's all they do. They just launch threes. And like big men aren't big men anymore. They don't post up anymore. They just hang out behind the arc and they just chuck it. Everybody just chucks up threes. And I think it's like that approach, same thing, man, where it's apparently more efficient and more advantageous to try to hit the ball out of the ballpark, to not get on base, to not hit behind runners. And I think with that, like pitching has just, let's just max these guys out all the time. That's what's super refreshing about what Tarik Skubal is doing. That's why I wanted to look into the numbers, because it's like, how are you averaging that kind of velocity with your fastball, but it's not even your main pitch? And how are you somehow getting 13 punchies in a Maddox? Because if you see 7-8 strikeouts from a starter, like it's normally coming in like the fifth and they're already at 85, 90 pitches. You know what I mean? Like there's no shot of him going all the way. So how do you have that efficiency with swing and miss, with the velo? Like it's very impressive. I think there's a sweet spot where you can have stuff and still pitch. And when I mean pitch, not throw, I mean pitch. It's very refreshing. And I know he's a little bit of a unicorn, but like I do believe that it could trend back a little bit in this direction. I want to believe it in my heart.
It's just crazy because, like, I understand that those guys were greats in the game in their own respect, but you mentioned Skubal being a bit of a unicorn, but like, and not to be the whole like back in the day guy, because I wasn't even alive, quote, back in the day. But
we had a few of those.
There were multiple Tarik Skubals in the league, and nobody really thought twice about it. They're just like, well, this is what we do. And I'm not using this as evidence towards my argument about trying to reinstate the importance of starting pitching, but it's just always a funny nugget. Do you know? I think we've talked about it on here. Do you know how many complete games Cy Young had? If you really want to go quote back in the day,
I'll give him 250.
Complete games?
Yeah.
749.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, we don't even have to compare those guys, you know? Like, wasn't that long ago that we had Verlander and Scherzer in their prime and CeCe and guys that were just like, you're going to have to drag me off this mound. I don't care about what my pitch count is. Like, I don't know. I don't know if it's a mentality thing. I don't know if it's I think it's very hard if you're not pushing these guys to the limit in the minor league system and then expecting anything different in the big league system. I don't know if it's a lack of development. I don't know if it's a complete philosophy change. But I think we see it's funny to me that the postseason really exposes the value. Like, why do we play the game differently when we get to the postseason? You know what I mean? Like, you see how good and deep these teams go when they have a solid rotation, because that bullpen's going to be tired no matter what. By the time we get to that point in the season, the bullpen's going to be exhausted. And we see how bullpens are going to let you down. Like we just watched in this last postseason. Like, you can't expect 130 innings out of a closer. It's not going to work, man.
They were talking about it on the broadcast this weekend. I was super busy this weekend. We had a lot going on. So a lot of what I was catching was actually the radio calls of the Sox game against the O's. And they were talking about on the broadcast how they've currently got 3 guys in their pen trending towards 60 appearances, which, if you're not familiar with like reliever appearances, like what's considered normal, like that's a lot. Like usually you have like maybe one guy.
Yeah.
They have 3. And sort of on that note, they're talking about the guy who's leading that rotation in Garrett Crochet. And apparently Alex Cora, I don't know if it's ultimately Cora's call, but maybe it's possibly those above him. But they're limiting his workload so that he's fresher in October. And I said, you got to get there first. And you're not going to get there 2 games under 500.
Yeah.
Which is how this season is shaking out for them. And I'm not just like picking on the Red Sox. I know this is like a broader issue around the league where you've got workload management and how that plays into the value or devaluation of starting pitching. But there's just so much at play here that like I feel like they're trying to solve too many issues by just slapping let's just go after these relievers and we'll just rely heavily on the bullpen. Like that's not going to solve all your issues. We need, like, it may sound old fashioned, but like starting pitching is going, like, it's not going to lose its value. That's going to continue to help regardless how you may feel about a traditional closer role, regardless of those things. Having starting pitching that will get you 6, 7, 8 innings is going to lighten the load on your bullpen. That's what these starting pitchers are built to do.
That's the whole
to
point
give
of
you
like
length.
The opposite argument is that like if you can get into a team's bullpen early in their series, like it shapes out to be advantageous for you, right? If you can bounce that first or second starter and really get into the bullpen, I'm sure there's numbers out there. I'm sure there's analytics to show you how much it would sway. And that comes, I mean, it's a whole can of worms, dude. We can get into hitter side and talk approach and talk about having an actual game plan when you get in the box and making, hunting for a certain pitch or making a pitcher work or paying attention to what he's done before you and the hitters before you. Like, I don't know. I think we're in a serious like developmental issue where there's just, I don't know if things are being talked about or taught. And this is the worst defense has ever looked, by the way. So it's like, it's a very different game. And I'm not trying to say like our game that we grew up with was better. It's just different. And I think skewing the rules just to get the game back to what it used to be should tell you all you need to know.
That's a good point. It's like, last thing I'll say to what you just said. Right. You're not saying the game we grew up with was better. Like we're fully open to changing the game, to evolving the game if it makes the game better. But if you're changing the game and in the process, leaving behind all of the fundamentals and everything else that got the game to the point that it's at where you felt you needed to change it.
Yep.
What does that say?
Yep.
I don't know. All in all, though, tip of the cap to Tarik Skubal. Last note here on that. First, the only major leaguer to throw a shutout with 13 or more strikeouts and fewer than 100 pitches since pitch counts records started in 1988. Yeah, just continues to be
stud.
Hands down best pitcher in baseball. Not even close. Another guy that has throughout his career been in the conversation as one of the game's best. Ronald Acuña Jr. made his return to the diamond this past weekend. First pitch that he sees, correct? On Friday?
Yeah.
467 feet.
Tank.
The next day, Saturday, hits another. So he's got, coming into today, 2 jacks in as many games. Or had 2 jacks in as many games. How do we feel about the impact that this has on the Braves?
Savior, man. Although they've lost 2 out of the 3 that he's been back.
In our fantasy league group text, he hit the first pitch that he sees Friday night. Because we got some Braves fans in that chat. I texted him. I said the Braves are back, and then they lose the game. And then I follow up with the text at the end of the game. Narrator, they in fact were not back, and that's I feel like that's kind of the way the season has gone for them thus far, where they just can't get traction.
It's very odd. I think it is a good thing. Obviously, he's a difference maker, and it's all aspects, right? He's a 5-tool guy, and what he brings defensively and base running is like, we talk about. There's really only a handful of guys in the league that are going to, no matter what, leave their print on every single game they're in, somehow, some way, and he's one of those guys. So doesn't even have to be falling in love with the home run, because he's going to bring it in some other way. But what do we think of the knee guard, by the way? Can we address that?
All I know is that
I think we got to have a dialogue.
That we have to get into like an accessories conversation, but I did say in that very group text, I said the pops of yellow that he was rocking on top of the Friday Reds, I was about it. Now it seems as though you're asking more about the practicality. Are we talking the practicality of it?
We're talking about a shin guard that has now gone above the kneecap. It's an additional piece that covers the knee.
I gotta look at this. Oh yeah, you're right. I did. That's okay. I was absurd. Watching him and I was like, so there was something that just wasn't making sense to me, and I couldn't put my finger on it. But yeah, okay. Now I'm seeing it. Yeah, that is an interesting little.
It's obnoxious.
Contraption.
I understand a little bit of a higher shin guard. I mean, there's plenty of guys that do it. I think Shohei wears one that's pretty high. To be fair, it's inside the pant leg. But this, the knee, like I understand you've had knee injuries.
I was going to say, if there's a guy
nothing for torn ACLs, it makes no sense. It makes no sense.
Well, thankfully, there are many things that I am truly grateful for. And one of those things is the fact that I have never, knock on wood, have never dealt with an ACL injury. But I would have to imagine, like at the very least, it's like a peace of mind thing, right? It's like practically it may not help, but like having a little bit of just reassurance there, you're telling me that wouldn't do anything for you mentally?
I think a brace or a sleeve, like some type of compression thing on the inside, like sure. It's understandable. You see guys with like elbow injuries that wear sleeves. Like I can wrap my mind around that. But like a protective hard shin guard, like you fouling a ball off of your knee that you had surgery on doesn't change anything. So that's all.
We're here.
I don't mean to be the accessory police. I don't mean to sound like an old man today.
Nate had a flight today. He just bear with him. He's got to get some of the. Just give him some grace. He's got to get some of the grumps out.
You know what really pisses me off are the people that put their backpacks in the overhead bins. What are we doing, guys?
As opposed to under the seat?
It's under the seat. It's under the seat. Now we're delayed because these idiots are walking up and down the aisle trying to find a spot for their bag. But there's no spots because your backpack's up there. Sorry. Good thing Acuña's back, man. Glad he's back. Looks good.
I'm glad. Yeah. I'm glad we circled back.
Looks good. Love to see the pop right away. I think that's the biggest thing too, is that like as a hitter, knees are tough, man. There's a lot of rotating thing. There's spikes, it's all the above. So the fact that you've seen immediately exit velo there, pop is there. It's good news, man. It's good news. Fully healthy.
Looks good swinging it. Looks good running. All seems as though all the boxes have been checked right away, like you said, immediately. So good news for the Braves. How do we feel coming into today? Well, maybe not coming in today, but as of this very moment, how do we feel about the 8.5 game gap between them and the top of the division? A division that I had them winning, and I think you maybe had at the very least in the mix.
Let's check. I'm a little nervous, but I think there's plenty of time, obviously. It's a very volatile division. I had them finishing second in this division. And I do have them in the wild card. So, yeah.
Because look, the reality of it is there are a few guys in the league that if they come back can truly, to use the term used earlier, the savior role. There are a few guys in the league that can actually live up to that kind of expectation and fulfill that kind of hope that you can only imagine the fan base has, where they're like, what, like checking the clock constantly, refreshing the feed. Like, when is this guy back? We need this guy back. To sort of rehash that, there's only so many guys that can act. There's guys in the league that you think can be that, guys that you maybe erroneously hope can fill that gap. But again, there's only a few guys that can actually do that, and he's one of them.
I think there's guys that, like, any fan base would have bias towards as well and try to put that guy in that category. But bias aside, this guy is in that category. That's what he does. And they're getting another one on the other side of the ball, hopefully, in Spencer Strider, just being back on the horse full time. I know that hammy's been an issue, but I think it's going to end up being a very tight race. That's just what this division is. I haven't looked at like divisional matchups. My only thing is that, like, yes, it was a rough start 0-7 or 0-8, whatever it was, to like creep towards, I think it was just a game under 500 by the time April ended. And now we're coming up on the end of May, and you're still kind of in that neighborhood. Like, there hasn't been this like, we weathered the storm, glad this rough first 2 weeks is kind of out of our system. Like, it's still like there hasn't been like this, let's kick it into next year and find something else quite yet, which I'm just curious to see. I haven't really like dove deep into what Braves performance looks like, but I would say that there's some positive that has come out of, like, Acuña's absence. You're seeing some other guys that have kind of, Eli White and Nick Allen, like guys that like you haven't really heard of before. And then, they get the opportunity to play this year, and you're like, okay, I can kind of see some stuff out of that. Even though they look like substitute teachers, if you take the uniform off.
Yeah. But I mean, to your point, like, maybe there wasn't like a 2-3 week stretch where it's like, okay, got that out of our system. Now let's kick it into gear. Maybe it wasn't 2 or 3 weeks, but now 2 months into the season, you get Acuña back. Is now the time where you finally go, okay, we weathered that. We're flirting with 500. Now we go. Like, granted, this was a more drawn out weathering of the storm than we would have hoped for, but it's still early enough to where you can close it sounds crazy to some, but you can close an 8.5 game gap. You put a couple good weeks together and you're only a few games out.
Yeah. And once this lineup gets going on all cylinders too, because I mean, they clearly have a lot of pop. I think once it gets going, and that's what this guy does. Acuña is going to ignite that in a way. And you got Matt Olson that's starting to, come around. Like, I think they're going to be fine. I think it's going to be a tight finish. They got to get it going though. They got to just play a little bit better baseball. Goofy on the bases so far. So, yeah. I believe in him still.
Well, they are chasing down the Philadelphia Phillies, who leading up to Sunday, had a 9-game win streak, which was funny enough, was a game that I, as an honorary Phillies fan, I tuned in for, well, I just want to, I'm all about transparency here. I tuned in for the game. It would have had to have been Saturday night. I think it was Saturday night, because I was like, I've been talking up the A's, which I'm not gonna name names here, but there's some people taking victory laps on the A's just being suck right now, just being nothing but suck. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, it's May.
Sure.
Plenty of time for the A's to be the playoff team, the postseason team that I believe them to be. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. But coming into Sunday, the 9-game win streak, Phillies, the starting staff, dude, disgusting. First 8 games of that streak, a 1.82 ERA. The team had an OPS of 807 and 12 homers during that stretch. And not to mention, best team in baseball coming in today. So, as we mentioned, this is a team that the Braves and even the Mets are chasing down. Only a game and a half back at this point, but Phillies are pacing the National League the entire league, but specifically the National League right now. Do we feel that this will sustain itself for some time, or do we feel like the Phillies had to go on this run to reach this mark, but now we're going to level back out? And now that Acuña is back, maybe Soto starts heating up. Now that maybe we feel like the NL East is going to start to beat up on itself again.
I don't know. I'm kind of looking through the Phillies schedule for the month of May, and I don't know as far as weakness goes, where they rank, but it doesn't look like it was a very tough month. Starting off, finishing a series with the Nats, Diamondbacks, Rays, Guardians. Where you're like, okay, not bad. And then it just starts to, Cardinals, Pirates, Rockies, A's. And then they're going to end with the 3-game set starting against the Braves tomorrow, and then Brewers again. So, it's weird. It's always that fine line of like, hey, you can't sit here and knock a team for beating teams that they're supposed to beat. We can't take that and hold it against them. But at the same time, you got to wonder what's real, what's not. But you mentioned already, their starting staff is real. They're crazy deep, and they all look good. And even this streak had to end on a walk-off, didn't it? I think the A's had to walk it off to be able to cap this win streak off for the Phillies. So, playing good ball, man. Playing good ball. And it's not live and die by the home run from my point of view, from my perspective. It's a lot of hitting, a lot of swipes, and good pitching. And that Brandon Marsh play at the plate the other day was nice.
Oh,
was yesterday,
dude!
That was nice.
Oh, beautiful.
I love those.
Yeah, and kind of more broader conversation. I gotta say, I enjoyed watching some ball in Sacramento. I enjoyed the experience.
Did you?
It was a nice It was a nice mix up.
I was watching. I think it was Saturday, because I think I went to the Yanks Rocks game and then came back, and then we just really just kind of vegged out, and I think it was Saturday. I threw the game on, and I was watching. No, it was yesterday. I was watching Phillies A's yesterday. That's what it was. I didn't get to see the end, but I was watching.
Because you were scoreboard watching for our fantasy matchup, which I'll just go ahead and say that
bad guy won. Good guys.
I'll let you do the math on
fighting for life right now. Good guys are struggling. But Kotze got tossed. There's no clubhouse to walk to. When you get tossed, you got to go out the outfield wall, my man.
The walk of shame. I saw that. I saw that.
I watched it live and I was like, this is unbelievably awkward, and I love it. It's just so weird, man. What is you get those commercial breaks now where they do like the rewind during MLB TV and they'll show you like an old clip.
Yeah.
This is the kind of stuff. This is the kind of stuff that gets clipped. And you watch it decades later, and you're like, "Why is a manager getting tossed and having to walk out, freaking getting cheered by all of his fans as he's walking up the warning track?"
Yeah, that's one of those like out of context clips.
Weird stuff, man. It's weird. I like it. I'm telling you, I think once you wrap your mind around like, hey, this isn't the forever scenario for the A's, and it's just like, this is a cool, unique thing, and it really didn't even seem like that bad of an experience watching it on TV in Sacramento. And that was without her face calling the game. It was someone else. Did she get booted or she get fired or what happened?
I don't know.
Stay off.
Maybe an off day. But no, you mentioned the thing about the clubhouse, which reminded me, I saw Severino had a gripe about it recently. So I pulled it up, and sure enough, this was, I think, earlier this past week. Severino was talking about his home road splits and how he's been significantly better on the road. He said, I just need to figure out a way to pitch good at home. I feel like if I only pitch on the road, I'll be freaking Cy Young, but I need to get better at home. Through 6 starts at Sutter Health Park, Severino is now 0-4 and holds a 6.75 with 14 walks and just 29 strikeouts.
Yeah.
Through 4 away games, has allowed just 2 earned runs in 25 innings with 6 walks and 16 strikeouts and no homers for a .72 road ERA. That's something I need to pay attention to in fantasy. I got this man on my club.
Yeah.
I got to keep, these are things I got to know. But no, the reason was, it was actually interesting. It was because of like the park itself. He said one fix Severino talked about is throwing his home bullpen sessions in between starts off the actual stadium mound rather than in the A's bullpen. He mentioned something. Severino also referenced the lack of a connected clubhouse to the dugout. This is what it was. His usual in-game routine on days he starts consists of heading inside the clubhouse during the half innings. He is not on the mound to either watch film or move around to keep his body warm. So he can't do that at home, which like,
that's kind of a thing. If you have a routine,
like, say what you will about like first world problems or whatever, but like creatures of habit, man, especially starting pitchers. And if you don't have that, like
if you got it in 29 other parks, you don't have it here. Well,
crazy. Well, maybe 28, maybe. I don't know what Steinbrenner
I feel like
Field's
Steinbrenner
got.
has a clubhouse.
They have to, yeah.
I feel like it does. But either way, it was cool. Neato torpedo to watch that game. Phillies. Is Alec Boehm back? He's been raking lately.
He has. He's been swinging it well. Not so well that anybody in our fantasy league needs to pick him up off waivers.
I looked at him today.
You can let that pass.
I gave him a glance today.
Just let it pass. He hasn't been hitting it that well, but
I might do it right now.
He's no. You don't need to do it. Seriously, you don't need to do that. It's not. I mean, it hasn't been that great. He's been good, not that great. But no, it's possible. But you know who hasn't been good? And we just kind of got done talking about him, but we haven't even really talked about the A's losing streak, which ended, funny enough, on Sunday, as did the Phillies win streak. The A's losing streak ended on Sunday with a win over the Phillies. That was an 11-game slide. And this all started after they, if you recall, they took down the Dodgers by a score of 11-1. And I'm sitting there, you want to talk about victory laps, I'm taking a victory lap going, big bad Dodgers. My Sacktown A's just rolled right into Chavez Ravine and said, we'll take care of this, and then proceeded to lose 11 straight. So not the strongest of victory laps for myself. But fortunately, they avoided a 12-game losing streak, something they had not done since 1994. During that stretch, the Pen had because when things like this go south, you're always trying to look at which position group is responsible. Is this on the offense? Is this on the rotation? Is this on the pen? I'm going to go ahead and say it's a little bit of everything, but very much so on the pen. Their bullpen during that losing streak had an ERA of 10.02, which I don't even think you need to bother looking at any advanced metrics for that. I think that's a good stopping point. And then offensively, they had an OPS of 671 during that skid. So a little bit everything, but I think a lot of that falls on the pen. Mason Miller even had, I think, like an outing or two there recently. Like specifically in the game I watched, wasn't terribly sharp. But I still believe in this A's team. I think they can figure it out. Just got to get this skid out of your system. We talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
You're due for one of these. Maybe not to this extent, but you're due for a skid or two over the course of 162. So just get out of your system now. Get back on the horse. You'll be all right.
Last thing on the A's, I think I had like an epiphany a little bit on, when you like recognize a former player in a current player. Jacob Wilson gives me like major Hunter Pence vibes.
Yeah. Okay.
Like constant movement, constant like weird quirkiness, tweakiness, but like I think he's just always tapped in. And I don't know what the numbers used to be, because I remember like a few years ago when Nolan Arenado was in a Rockies uniform still, there's like a limited amount of players that get approval to have like ADHD medication because it's like medically they need it. And he was one of them that was like allowed to take Adderall or whatever ADHD meds.
Sure.
Jacob Wilson, I'm wondering, does he get to, because the guy just fouls everything off. Like it's nuts. It's
pesky.
Wild to watch.
He's fidgety. He's
fidgety.
He's all over the place. He's
fights, dude. It's like
poking balls to left or right.
It's a fun at bat to watch. If you haven't gotten to see an at bat from him, it's just tune in, because he just doesn't take a pitch off.
Where are we at on the season line right now? Through 200 ABs, he's hitting 350, a WAR of 1.9, 70 hits. What was the thing though with him? Wasn't it like the
strikeouts? Wasn't it? Strikeouts or walks? One of the two.
He's got 11 strikeouts, 12 walks. OPS 888, not bad.
It's old school baseball, baby. I like it.
Not bad at all.
Anyway,
I like it. That's one of the many reasons I believe in this team. Rhodes, Severino, and Jacob Wilson.
That's it.
They're going to lead the charge. They're leading this team to the promised lane. You watch.
Lane or land?
Promised land.
Just checking.
Words are hard.
Yeah.
You know what else is hard? Being a Red Sox fan, we can't have 5 seconds of joy. Alex Bregman to the IL, 10-day IL, but will presumably miss much more time than 10 days.
What's up, man? What happened? Fill me in. I was busy this
Strained
weekend.
right quad. Thinking it's not too bad. Thinking it'll be maybe a short stint, but then I believe it was the next day Cora came out and said it was, quote, a significant injury. And then you had Bregman talking about it in a post-game presser. And if you didn't...
Not too positive, huh?
Yeah, if you didn't... Like, if you were feeling okay about it, you didn't leave that post-game presser feeling the same way. Was not pleased, was making comparisons to the injury he experienced back in 2021, where he missed 2.5 months So not sure what kind of, well, I know what kind of impact this is going to have on the team. Like, certainly not a good one, considering he was your best, even with the start that Devers had, or I shouldn't say the start, even with like the last few weeks that you've gotten out of Devers, consistently speaking, your best offensive player to this point. Not having that in your lineup is not good. And then I don't think, maybe not officially, but for all intents and purposes, a corresponding move. You bring up Marcelo Meyer. He gets the call up finally.
What do we think of him?
I'm excited about it. I hate that he's getting this opportunity given the circumstances, but I think he has a chance to serve as a little bit of a spark. But the reality of it is this is nothing more. Like, this team has been 500 for the last, I think, like 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I think going back to the World Series when they won back in 2018, I think they're like a game above or below 500 since they won the World Series. So quite literally going back that far.
That's
team is
pretty
mid.
Wild.
This team is nothing but mid, and unfortunately, as excited as I am for Marcelo, I don't know if he's going to be able to do enough to change that. But at the very least, can hopefully serve as a little bit of a bright spot for this team.
What's he been doing? Have we looked at numbers at all? Like, has he been?
He hasn't been
up?
No, he hasn't been lighting the world on fire. He was slash 271, 347, 471. He had 9 homers, 5 doubles, and a triple in the International League. But I mean, he wasn't Roman Anthony status in terms of lighting the world on fire, but I'm eager to see what he can do, but I'm not going back to that whole savior conversation. This is not going to be a guy that's going to come up and turn the season around single-handedly. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So that's that. A guy that, talking about call-ups, knocking on the door, Jac Caglianone. Coming into today, 6 games at the AAA level. They just called him up, I think a week or two ago, week and some change. In his over the last 4 days coming in today, had 5 homers. At the AAA level this year, he's hitting 346, 10 ribbies, slugging 923 with an OPS of 1280. So any minute now.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. This is your rookie of the year pick.
This is my rookie of the year, and I think if he, even with the delayed start, if he keeps hitting like that,
my goodness,
looks like he's gonna be special. And for those unfamiliar, this is the kid out of Florida who was a two-way player in college and was the real deal on both sides of the ball, but obviously just kind of focusing at first base. And I did read that the Royals were trying to get him some outfield appearances in the minor league system as well, just to try and find a spot. But I'm honestly I'm kind of confused, man. Like, I don't really understand what they have to lose. Their offense at the big league level has just been abysmal. I think Pasquantino has started to turn it on as of late. Yeah, it looks like he's gotten hot as of late. He's up to 258 with 8 jacks. So, like, it was a rough start there, but I don't know, man. Like, you got to find a way to get him in. And there's a fine line of when you start, shaking confidence a little bit by not believing in your guy and not giving him a chance. And then there's also this fine line of like, well, you'd hate to see it kind of fizzle out if he doesn't get to play every day. And that's what he's doing right now. He's playing every day and he looks good. It's just the Royals need to find how to do that at the big league level.
Is this real? I'm seeing this tweet from Matt Foster TV. This was from yesterday. Jac Caglianone in 44 games this season, so that's across AA and AAA. in 44 games this season, 14 homers. The Royals in 54 games this season, 32 homers. Is that real?
I don't want to hear about any type of service manipulation going on here. Because at a certain point, we're going to have to start asking those questions of what's going on. When your offense is this bad, when your pitching is doing this well, when your defense is playing this well, when you're in games, you're in the hunt, you're winning ball games with one of the worst offenses in the big leagues. It's like, what is the point? What are we doing? Find a way to get this guy on the field somehow. And if that means Sal Perez needs to catch every day to make sure that DH spot opens up, then that's what needs to start happening. And I don't know where the hole is. Who do we need to subtract to get this kid in the lineup? MJ Melendez? What?
Well, Kevin Biggio, I mean, not. This is just a name I just saw on the feed today. I think he got optioned down to AAA.
I think I'm all done with that experiment.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you.
Third or fourth uniform, and it's it all looks the same everywhere he goes.
But you mentioned the pitching being as good as it is. I don't think I realized, dude. They've allowed the third fewest runs in all of baseball.
I mean, we're talking about them so differently if they're scoring even if they're middle of the road offensively. We're talking about them very differently than we are right now. It'd be getting a lot more attention, and this kid would absolutely help. What do you have to lose?
Third fewest runs allowed by the staff, fourth fewest runs scored by the offense.
What are we doing? I told you this offline. I think Pasquantino is going to be wearing a different uniform. I think if this continues to be a logjam and it's not big league service manipulation going on, I think you got to kind of sell high on Pasquatch and get this kid in.
Well, going back real quick to the point you made about shaking confidence if he doesn't get his opportunity. I mean, he has you hear guys about getting cups of coffees at different levels. I mean, they haven't even handed him the cup of coffee yet at AAA. So is it fair to say that, even considering the start he's had, or I shouldn't say the start he's had. Well, yeah, sure, a season as a whole to this point, but specifically the stint that he's had at AAA, as short as it is, could you make the argument that maybe give him just a little bit more time at this level before we start talking about
get it. I think it's going to happen whether we want to or not. I think he's going to have more time there. It's just, it's a different conversation if this offense was better as a whole. That's a hot topic, and sometimes you don't your hands are your hands being forced here. You had no other choice.
And to play devil's advocate. And I understand they have different. We're talking about two different player profiles here, but it's a name that gets referenced in situations like this, where you're sort of rushing a guy along. What if we get a Jared Kelenic situation here? First of all, do we even think that's possible with the way talking player profiles? Is the way that he's hitting right now? Is he even capable of hitting a Jared Kelenic slide should he get called up prematurely? Do his struggles look that bad? I don't know.
He's got a lot of swing and miss in his game, which is fair. He's huge.
Yeah.
And I think that's just something that you got to let big guys just kind of figure their body out still, and it took Judge a couple years to kind of start to get the strikeout numbers under control. And now you see what he's doing. And I'm not saying Caglianone is the next Aaron Judge, but as far as body size and similar style goes, it's a very long swing, and just curious to see if anything changes there.
6'5", 250.
Yeah, he's massive.
That's
dude.
a big boy.
He's a big human. And he's very wide in the box too. Like he takes up the whole box. Just interested to see if there is some kind of downtick in minor leagues, and whether it's AA, AAA, like whatever, like how much time does that give? And I just, if it was me, I'm gonna start asking that question of like, what more do you need me to do? And how many more excuses can my manager or GM give me as to why I'm not up there doing it for the team that matters? It's just my perspective. Obviously, there's a lot more that goes into this behind the curtain, and there's inner workings. But like, to me, it's pretty simple. You got a guy that is tearing the cover off the ball. You draft him in the first round. You used your first pick on him. Like it, and he's performing at a rate that no one on your team is doing. What are we doing?
Albeit it's at the minor league level. Oh my goodness, with the start to the year, just as a baseball player, forget the level. It would be one thing if he got bumped up to AA, if he got bumped up to AAA, and he's hitting like 290 with an occasional bop here and there. Maybe he sprays one to the opposite field. You're like, okay, he's showing some positive signs. He's hitting 326 with 14 homers.
Yeah.
Like I think you're right about the excuses thing. At some point,
you're not hitting 260.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's not like it kind of reminds me of the Jackson Holiday situation where they sent him back down and they're like, well, we need to see him, what was it, hit off lefties, and immediately just starts raking off lefties. It's like, okay, well, he's checked that box. What else are we waiting for? It's kind of the same situation here where it's like, what are we doing? He's going to force the issue at some point. They're not going to have any choice.
Yep.
Couple more items here. Oneil Cruz. Did you see the ball he hit? 122.9 miles an hour, the hardest hit ball in the statcast era. He had himself a weekend. That ball he hit on Friday, I don't know if you saw Friday night. Dude, game tying in the ninth against the Brewers. He was so nonchalant after he hit it. I legit, because I was looking down at my computer because I had it up here on the monitor.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked up, and I kid you not, I thought it was a foul ball. I'm like, oh, he's just kind of like leaning back, sort of reset and get back in the box.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the ball is like 600 feet away, and then does what he did Sunday, with this StatCast record exit
Absolute
velo.
Missile.
Dude's a freak.
Dude is a freak. What a waste.
What a waste. Unbelievable. Let's figure it out.
Can we get 125? I'm rooting for 125 now. It's my next number I'm looking for. Although I haven't. The way it just didn't even look like it had the correct launch angle to be able to get into the river and clear the bleachers and right. I was like,
did it get all the way out?
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought it ended up because he yanked it pretty well.
It was like a hook. It was like a.
Let me watch this again.
Linear hook line drive that just. There's a few baseballs that I'd be a little nervous to try and get out and snag if I'm in the crowd and want to grab that barehanded. I think I'm gonna let that one go.
Oh yeah, that thing surely got out of there. Holy cow! Yeah. What a waste. To your point, what a waste. Get whatever. I'm not talking about it anymore.
No more Pirates talk.
Speaking of freaks, Shohei Ohtani. We're that much closer. We're one day closer to freak status, getting this guy back on the bump. He touched 97 in a live bullpen on Sunday, throwing off the mound at Citi Field. 22 pitches across 5 different ABs. He's sitting at I'm reading that he was sitting at 94, 95, but touched 97. And they're still taking it. I don't think they have much of a timetable yet. Still taking it day by day. But I don't know, man. It's getting more real.
Did you see the clip of Kike sitting behind the shell, the BP shell, just like literally like crisscross applesauce, just watching? Like you see the catcher in the frame, and then you see Kike just chilling,
just looking like a little kid, just taking it all in. I did see that.
It just tells you that like there's just different tiers, and when you have guys that do this daily and that they're one of the best in the world, and then they look at him and they're like, oh, there's another tier above this.
Yeah, I'm not that.
Yeah, dude. It's cool, man. It's cool to see that. And like, I know Kike is a little bit of a character, but like, I think that tells you exactly what you need to know about what this man is capable of.
I keep thinking though about what you said about maybe there being a little bit of urgency with getting him back, given the state of their staff. I don't know, man. I don't
know. I just took another dub tonight, but like unless the West starts pushing at them a little bit, I mean, there's just not much to worry about right now outside of the Giants. Then it's, if you're the Dodgers and you're like, hey, can we weather this storm without even bringing back this guy? Scary stuff, man. Scary, scary stuff.
That's all I got, my friend.
I got a little hot take for you. I got a little takeaway as we end this episode.
Lay it on
me. From my experience at Coors Field this weekend.
And real quick before I forget, I've got a parting question, so don't let me forget. What do you got?
What's cooler, my hot take or your question?
No, I'll leave it for people to. I'll let it marinate, to over the next few days.
My hot take is I don't think the Rockies are going to end up breaking the White Sox record.
You're absolutely wrong. You know why?
Why?
Earlier this episode, you brought up strength of schedule for I think we were talking Phillies, and you're like, well, what's just out of curiosity? I know we're only in May still, but I looked up just remaining strength of schedule.
Yeah.
No, I think it was when we were talking Braves, and I was like, okay, where do the Braves fall in this? Braves had the 5th toughest strength of schedule left in the season. Again, I know it's early, but looking at the sample size of what's left, Braves are 5th on that list. Rockies have the 3rd toughest strength of schedule.
Who runs that out since we're here?
2nd on that list, Cincinnati Reds, which is not a good look for
that's tough.
For a team that I think we both had high hopes for. And rounding out the list at number 1, the Chicago White Sox.
Nice.
So we're looking at some shaky ball.
I'm just saying I don't think they're as bad. Getting to kind of see some guys in person, like, and watching this series as intently as I did, like, I think Bretton Doyle is obviously a name that a lot of people know. Now that Tovar is back, I think Tovar's like, I don't think he gets enough love, man. I don't think he gets enough credit. Like that cat is real good. And then guys like, I think Jordan Beck.
Jordan Beck's been swinging.
Is legit, man.
Yeah.
Like a legit top of the order, play good defense kind of name. There's some guys there. And, you know, whether Ryan McMahon like survives the trade deadline or not, plays incredible defense, even though he's not really hitting quite yet. I'm not saying this team is good by any means. I think they're going to end up being better than the worst team in baseball history. I think that I can't see it. I think they're better.
I mean, dude,
even though I was there and they lost 13-1 on Saturday. They played the Yanks tough all weekend outside of that.
Yeah, I think it says more about the Yankees than it does the Rockies.
Well, that's my other take.
which is
Yeah, I think the Yankees are better than they are last year. I think they're a lot better than they were last year.
yeah, no, going toe to toe with the team that's on track to be the worst in baseball. That's definitely
you,
good,
dude.
that's a good sign.
I'm watching this team daily. They put the ball in play, and they play good defense, and they run the bases. They have speed. It's way different than last year. I'm telling you right now. If they add some pitching depth and their bullpen gets solidified, I think they're a lot better than they were last year. It's a better team to watch. And they put up that 10 runs in that 5th inning when I was there. No home runs. Just knocks, dude. Just putting the ball in play. You have a lineup that does that now. I'm telling you, it's different. Now I'm done.
My parting question, and I think I tweeted this out, posted it or something. I don't think we talked about this at the end of last episode. At least I hope we didn't. My parting question that I want you listeners to think about. Do you think there's ever been 2 major league home runs hit at the same second? Like, we're talking wood hitting leather, like split second. Do you think there's ever been a moment in time where 2 major league home runs have been hit at the same exact moment?
Is this a rhetorical question like episode ends with this? Or do you actually have an answer?
No, I don't have an answer. It's a legitimate question. That's why I said I want to let it marinate, let people think on it. Because there was a shocking amount of people that were like, yeah, oh, definitely had to have happened. I'm like, hear me out. I get it that, like, you know, there's a lot of games being played in a given day and in a given season. I get that. But I'm not talking like the same minute, like, oh, these 2 homers were both hit at 10:04. I'm talking the same. Honestly, going even deeper, like even more specific than just like a second. Like, I'm talking like fractions of a second. Do you think there's ever been 2 home runs hit at the same point in time? I think
yes.
no.
I say yes.
I think no.
Are you you need to go back to work, I think. Yeah. I think you've had some thoughts that are rattling around up there.
There's whiteboards and newspaper clippings and strings all back here, all over the place.
This 4-day weekend has gotten to your head a little bit.
Yeah, it's I need to get grounded.
Yeah.
I need to come back down to earth. That's all I got. You go ahead and think on that and
do.
Hit me up, and if you're listening or watching, hit me up in the messages with your rationale, because I'm curious. I'm curious to hear the arguments for, because I just don't think it's ever happened. No particular
Maybe this
reason.
Year will be the first year.
No particular. I mean, it'd be impossible to track. I think. I don't think there's any way of ever knowing. So
probably
it's really an answerless question.
You're probably right.
That's all I got.
Don't go chasing curveballs, folks.
We love you all, and as always, looking forward to talking more baseball with you guys soon. Until next time, stay filthy.